Hello, my name is Mystique. Today I will read to you a very short story, titled White Room. Maria yelled again, "Open your eyes, Peter," and this time it was louder than before. Peter continued to ignore her request. He sat pensively at his wooden desk with his eyes closed tightly. He was scratching something with his fingernail into the top of the desk. Peter had a very good reason that he insisted on keeping his eyes closed. The bright fluorescent lighting that produced a loud buzzing and continually blinked and reflected off the super white walls, gave Peter a terrible migraine headache. Just because he was kept as a prisoner in this room day in and day out, didn't mean that he should be subjected to torture. At least this was Peter's take on the situation. He could always tell when Maria was in the room even with his eyes closed and with her style of walking quietly in her thick cushion-soled shoes. She wore a very pungent perfume that made Peter very nauseous. He would curl up his lip and hold his nose when she got too close to him. Maria put down the food tray that she had just brought in. "It's lunch time, my boy," she said in her shrill nasal voice. Peter just sat there with his eyes closed. "Suit yourself, kid, eat or don't eat, it's no skin off my nose," Maria exclaimed. She left the tray and walked out of the room. Peter could hear the familiar click of the key in the lock as she exited. He opened one eye and looked at the tray that she left on the desk. He sniffed at it and picked up the fork and poked it into the yellowish mush that was steaming on the plate. He looked around for some salt, as that at least seemed to help make the food slightly more palatable. He took a tiny nibble at the mush and then another. He was hungry but not that hungry. Peter shoved the tray off of the table and onto the floor. The plastic plate hit the white tiled floor and the mush sprayed everywhere. He leaned down and wiped the mess off of his right leg with the paper napkin and then dropped the napkin on the floor. Peter got up from the desk and went over to his small metal-framed cot in the corner of the small room. He lay down on the bed and rolled over onto his side and grasped the foam pillow up under his head and hugged it tightly. He tried to visualize what the outside might be like this time of year. He took out the little plastic baggie that he carefully kept hidden inside of his pillowcase. He counted how many pills that he had been hiding. Every day when Maria brought him his morning medications he was able to hide one blue pill under his tongue. Peter was very gratified that he now had collected 21 pills. Peter rolled over onto his back and reached for a glass of water and then ingested all of the pills without any moment of hesitation. He had been planning this for almost a month and nothing would change his plan. After a few minutes Peter was able to picture an even clearer image of the out of doors. He saw butterflies and birds and the colors seemed so brilliant and the sky was so blue with scattered thin white clouds that seemed to form shapes of whimsical animals dancing in the sky. He smiled widely and felt a sudden warm glow come over him and he felt so free and happy. He was running barefoot in the warm fresh-smelling green grass and enjoying all of the beautiful flowers just as he remembered when he was a small child. Peter tried to get up and he reached around on the floor for his cane but he couldn't find it. He sat up on the edge of the bed and put on his glasses. Everything was so blurry that it was difficult to see across the room. He tried to get up to his feet and fell to the floor. Peter was able to locate his cane and then tried again to get up. He was able to finally stand but he was very shaky. He walked slowly over to the desk and sat in the chair. He squinted his eyes to prevent the bright lighting from blinding his vision. He adjusted the chair and dropped his cane and felt the top of the desk and found where he had been scratching into the wooden surface. Peter continued to scratch with his fingernail into the wood until he finally completed what he had started earlier. He felt the letters from left to right to make sure he had spelled it correctly. The words, "Forgive me," were etched deeply